This is episode 46 of Pinnacle FC. Football never sleeps. They talk about the fixture buildup in terms of the players and the managers. What about the pundits? What about the analysts? We don't get to sleep either. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you. This is our Club World Cup preview show. Just like that, we're back at it, Jake, with a brand new looking tournament, the FIFA Club World Cup for 2025. How excited are you for this summer's feature event?
I'm excited. I am. It's one of those that if you'd have said that I was going to be excited a month ago, I'd have been laughing and saying, "No, don't be silly." Oh, why would I be excited for more football? But yeah, doing all the research, digging into things a little bit, taking. Obviously, we've had the excitement of some transfers happening as well ahead of the tournament. Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good fortnight or so of football. But I do worry that it might be quite predictable in the sense that we might end up with 8 Champions League teams or 8 European teams in the final 8, and ultimately this new Club World Cup that's FIFA's golden goose is just going to turn into a glorified Champions League. That's my worry. But yeah, I'm excited.
But still, the stakes are incredibly high. An estimated $1 billion US on the line for the clubs. Whether the players will see anything, well, that remains to be seen. I know there is some pessimism or negativity surrounding ticket sales. This is what happens when the event's staged in so many cities. We deal with this in North America for the Gold Cup, various different international events. But with the Club World Cup event, with other footballs being played, it's just extremely difficult. But I, like you, I think that once the tournament gets up and running, if there is a good result here or there, some really entertaining performances, then I think you build momentum, especially into the latter stages of this tournament, where I think it can be really, really good. And there's been anticipation around this 32-team tournament. Of course, the Club World Cup expanded from just 7 teams, where it's traditional European dominance. I believe they won the last 11 or so of this tournament. It was supposed to happen in 2021 in China, but it got bumped and postponed. And I think that this is really the preamble to America, Canada, Mexico to a lesser degree, hosting the World Cup next summer as well. So I'm excited about this. As I mentioned, 32 teams in this tournament. Over the course of this podcast, we're going to go through future plays, courtesy of Pinnacle. Bet smart, bet Pinnacle.
But you're going to say all 32
unless
teams then.
Jake Osgathorpe wants to break down
Let me get my
Auckland,
notes ready.
or I don't know. I don't know if we need that much of a deep dive.
Well, they are.
We will share some potentially undervalued or overvalued teams in this tournament and get into whether or not there are any long shots that could surprise here. The tournament starts this weekend, runs from June 14th to July 13th as well. I'll also remind you to get involved with Pinnacle on Reddit. A Reddit page or group was established by the fine people on Pinnacle, where players get to go for betting insights and strategy. It's up to date with new markets that Pinnacle are posting as well. Odds, comparison, content, platform. It's got it all. Go to reddit.com, Pinnacle Sportsbook. You can search Pinnacle Sportsbook or pinnacle.com/r/Pinnacle Sportsbook on Reddit. So here we are. Let's start off, courtesy of Pinnacle, in the futures markets. Real Madrid are the favorites to go on and win this tournament, followed by PSG, Man City, and Bayern Munich. It goes beyond that, where the first 9 teams, or the top 9 teams in terms of betting favorites in this tournament, are all European based. Even if you go a little bit deeper into transfer market, squad values, the top 11 sides are European sides as well, before the Brazilian and Saudi teams become involved. When you're looking at those future numbers for tournament winner, does anything stand out to you, Jake?
At the head of the market, I think it's very interesting because I think we'll all agree that PSG have been the best team in Europe this season by a country mile. So I was, when they won the Champions League, they were around plus 800 to win this tournament. They've been an absolute steam train in the market. They're into plus 445, which is now second favourite, as you mentioned. And as much as I would like to put them up at that price, I can't, knowing that they were such a big price. And I know quite a lot of people probably did get on them at that big price. As soon as they scored the third goal in the Champions League final, I was getting the price. I knew that they were competing in this competition. And I do think they're a little bit too short now in the market. I do think they should be favourites over Real Madrid. I think Madrid are a little bit too short. They're one of the teams that I think are a little bit overvalued at plus 398. And the reasons are they're such an unbalanced team. And I know the managerial changes happen and that could work in their favour, but it also could be a hindrance to them. Xabi Alonso is a manager that's complete contrast to Ancelotti, who's very much a go and play, express yourselves. Alonso's got a very, not strict, but he's got a tactical system he wants to implicate. And I just wonder if that'll take time for the players to learn. And he's obviously not going to have that time because half the players have been playing international football for the last week. So I think they're a very vulnerable favourite. They obviously have a fairly kind run as compared to PSG. They've got a kind group compared to PSG. But I just think PSG are a bit of a juggernaut at the minute, and their squad depth is very, very good as well, like Madrid's. So I think that the favourites should be.
Can I just pick up there? I just want to share a thought on PSG. Part of this tournament is the way that it breaks down after the group phase as well. PSG is in Group B. Their first match is against Atlético Madrid. That is relevant because the path to the final, if PSG win the group, is very manageable. And that's something you need to look at when it comes to this tournament. How the structure works is first place in A plays second place in B, C1, D2, E1, F2, G1, H2. So you kind of plot out what you think is going to happen. We're not expecting a ton of significant upsets, especially when we get deeper in this tournament. If PSG, I would hold off on making any future play based on what happens between PSG and Atlético Madrid in that first game. I think Atleti, there could be some value in them as well. The reason is if PSG go on and win that group, I mean, Group A is very weak. Porto, Inter Miami, not a very good side. Palmeiras might be okay. We'll see. But that path could then run through a Chelsea, Boca Juniors, Benfica type look to get to the semifinal of this tournament. That's what you kind of look at. If you flip it and they go on the other side, they could end up on the same side of the draw. To get to a semifinal, might have to play a Bayern Munich. I think that is much more significant in terms of the path, because if they do go on and win that first game against Atletico Madrid, then go on and win that group, I think that path is much more straightforward. So I would hold off on making a future potential tournament winner play on PSG and see if or how much the market shifts based upon the first game played, which I believe is the second or third game of the tournament. So do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I do, but I'd be shocked if PSG don't top the group. I don't think Atletico Madrid. I think they're one of the. If I was to kind of bracket teams, they're one of the pretenders. Well, I don't think they're a contender at all to win.
I kind of disagree. I kind of disagree with that because Atletico Madrid. I know it wasn't a banner campaign, but they still have the same manager. There's been managerial changes across many of the sides here at this tournament. This is building off a season where they kind of mailed it in after they had a Barcelona problem during the season. Like they couldn't beat Barcelona in the league or in the cup. And that's kind of what stagnated their season and really killed it in the end. I think they're going to be a decent enough side in this tournament. I think it's a good thing that they play PSG first as well. So could be advantageous.
I think they're a team to fade in these competitions. Their record is absolutely abysmal in the Champions League. The last 8 Champions League seasons,
but this isn't the Champions. This is much
times.
Just want to be. This is much different than the Champions League. I'm not.
Oh no, yeah, but when you get to the final 8, it's the Champions League. You're playing Bayern Munich, you're playing PSG, you're playing Real Madrid, you're playing Man City.
Getting out of the group. Right? Under Simeone, they've had some.
Oh, they're getting out of the group. Yeah, no, they're getting out of the group. Yeah. But they're not finishing first. Like I don't see Atletico Madrid beating PSG in that first game, and I think if it ends in a draw, it's going to go to goal.
But don't you think coming off a Champions League,
I think PSG win it quite comfortably.
Obviously, it seems like every side is going to go for this tournament. I haven't really seen any team that's going to mail it in, but they just won the biggest tournament. Like this isn't the biggest prize. This is very secondary in terms of their approach. For me, it seems like for PSG and playing them in the first game after they won the Champions League, if there's an extended hangover, takes them a little bit to get up to speed. PSG, I don't want to play later in this tournament. The first game, there could be opportunity here for Atletico Madrid. That's why I'm personally holding off on any play to do with these two teams. I want to see how that first team plays out. I think this is where the schedule comes in hand, where I'll wait and see. I'll wait and watch before I move forward with either one of these sides. So, said my piece. You can continue on because you wanted to talk Man City. Okay. What about Manchester City here?
Yeah. I mean, they are obviously they've drifted slightly with PSG shortening. They're one that I find difficult to assess because obviously they had a pretty poor campaign, well, very poor by their standards, finished trophyless. But they have made some interesting signings that will play in this competition. Ait Nouri, definitely an upgrade at left back, means that Guardiola can play at centre half, where he looked very, very good. Rodri's back. He's back fully fit, which might make a big difference to them in midfield. Whether that makes them a serious contender for this, I mean, they're going to go into the latter stages no matter what, because they have got such a kind group and a decent run. But yeah, there are still question marks, and it's the same with Bayern Munich. Like they have mass injuries. They're defensively still very vulnerable. The only positive for them, like we've said already, they've got a very, very easy group where they should finish top, and that will lead to them ultimately getting to the quarters. You would have to imagine. Yeah, I've the only team in the top four in the betting that I have very few question marks around is PSG. Everyone else, I do have a little bit of. I can't back them confidently to win the overall tournament, if that makes sense. Because PSG have wiped the floor with City this season. City, they've struggled against pretty much every team they played in the Champions League. And we just don't know what that Rodri impact's going to be. Whether it's going to be, we're going to click back into the gear of winning the treble, or if it's going to be, actually, there are still some issues that it's just Rodri's not going to fix on his own. Yeah, and then the only other team that are under plus 1,000 is Chelsea. And again, like on paper, they're a very, very good team with a lot of talent. But against the better teams in like across Europe, they didn't play any. They were in the Conference League. They won that comfortably. But in the league, in the Premier League, they won 3 of 10 against top 6 teams, lost 5. So when they played against the Premier League's best, they came unstuck. And I just wonder if that is going to occur again when they get to the last stages of this tournament. And I don't think they're a shoo-in to win that group either, I'll be honest. I think Flamengo could cause a bit of an upset there, and that would automatically make them, Chelsea big outsiders in that round of 16 tie if it was to be a Bayern Munich. So I think there's quite a lot of question marks about the head of the market. And I would, like I said, at PSG, the price is gone, but they're the most likely winners in my mind.
Can I share the couple teams I'm looking at right here where I think that there might actually be value in the futures market? Bayern Munich at plus 663. It's because of their path. I mean, I don't think that Benfica are anywhere near as good of a side as Bayern Munich. Boca Juniors in that group. Because Flamengo and Chelsea, I think that either one of them is a winnable game in the next round. And first place in A and second place in B could be advantageous as well. If that's Atletico Madrid, this is where you need to wait for the PSG Atletico Madrid scenario to play out. But I think that Bayern Munich are set up well. The swan song of Thomas Müller as well. I think there will be motivation to go on and do something in this tournament. At that number, they're playable. And you mentioned PSG when the Champions League ended and you ended up putting money down. What about Inter? What about the reverse? Inter being pushed out to plus 1427. What would have happened if they won the Champions League? They lose their manager, Inzaghi. He's managing Al Hilal, who's also in this tournament. Chivu comes in, but this is the same group of players and a team that should be wanting to get back onto the field as soon as possible to rinse that memory of absolutely being annihilated in that final. It's just based upon number. I can't believe they're plus 1427 in a tournament. You can make the argument that there are 3 teams that are better than them. There's only 3 I can definitively say are better than Inter Milan in this tournament. So the fact that they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in terms of the odds, I think a lot of that is based upon the last thing we saw. The 2 things, their manager leaving and the fact that they got thrashed in the Champions League final. Are Inter that bad of a team? No, they're not. I think that their group,
4 things.
River, Monterrey, a team of stars, but they're dreadful together. I covered them in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They're dreadful. Things can open up if they win that group. where they could face potentially Man City in the semifinal. And I think they got a puncher's chance in that game. So at plus 14.27, I'd take a look. It's kind of similar in the same part of the bracket. Borussia Dortmund's an interesting team, the way that they ended the season under Niko Kovac. They played so much better. They bring in Joe Bellingham. They seem like they're a little bit healthy, more comfortable playing in their identity as well. They pulled off 5 successive victories to get back into the Champions League next season as well. So the way they finished was very good. By the way, if they end up playing Real Madrid down the road, they already beat a Xabi Alonso side 4-2 the last time that they played. And their group are the weakest. Really the weakest of all the groups in this tournament as well. So I think that Borussia Dortmund playing a little bit higher, plus 25-16, might be worth the punt as well. Those are the kind of future plays that I'm taking a look at.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on Dortmund. They're actually my dark horse shout to win the whole thing. Like you said, they finished really well under Kovac. They started 11th when he took over in February, and they finished 4th. Won 9 of 14 league games. They won 8 of the last 10 in all competitions, including beating Barcelona very convincingly and giving them a scare in the Champions League. They also beat 3 of the Bundesliga top 6 in that run as well, and drew with Bayern Munich. So they've got really good form against good teams. It's a really good body of work. And let's not forget, it was only last year they got to the Champions League final, this group. And they gave Real Madrid a real shock in the final. Like the XG in that game was 2 XG to 1 in Dortmund's favour. Real Madrid's class obviously came out. So I think they're a live runner to make a real good charge at this. Like you said, very winnable group. The last 16 ties should be very winnable as well. And then they'll play Real Madrid. And I think that like you said, the Xabi Alonso and the fact that there's a lot of changing at Real Madrid, I think Dortmund could upset them. So I like them at the prices. I can't get on board with Inter. I was massively on side with them to win the Champions League. They absolutely laid an egg in that final, and I don't think it was just because PSG were really good. Inter were bad, but I think that game just absolutely epitomised the fact that Inter are an old and tired team. Like I didn't realise that heading into the Champions League final, you had the team with the oldest average age against the team with the youngest average age. And it bloody showed, didn't it? They absolutely ran them over. And I just worry that these extra games, like most of them have played international football as well. Like Marcus Thuram played for France, Martinez for Argentina. Like it's just more games on the legs of these players that are already old. So I just worry that they're going to get to the US and they're just going to be absolutely out on the feet. So I understand the price.
More Chibu coming in. I think that he will bring in some fresh blood. That's based upon the number, Jake. Like the fact that I don't have the reference in front of me right now. I apologize, but I can't remember what they were just 2.5 weeks ago. They weren't plus 14.27. So. I think they're intriguing to say the least. So how are you navigating this tournament where we think that the big European sides are the strongest in this tournament? We can get into maybe potentially teams that are outside of European football that could maybe surprise. But how are you navigating this tournament match by match? Trying to potentially find value in sides that you like, even though the potential futures play might not be might not be the right way to approach things.
Yeah. I think that anybody who does a lot of research and watches a lot of football of the teams that not many people know about will have a big edge in the tournament because the teams are ultimately a blanket price. They're priced based on name. So you've got teams like Wydad playing against Manchester City, and City are just installed as like really short favourites, and the handicap set at 2.5. But if you do a little bit of digging, a little bit of reading, you'll understand that the Wydad are a very good team. Like they are a team that could, like, I'm not going to say they're going to beat Manchester City, but they're a team that could be very awkward. Like they're very, very compact. Like if you think about Morocco at the World Cup in 2022. That's what Wydad will be playing like. It'll be a compact, deep block, pack in the middle of the pitch and forcing City into long-range shots or a lot of crosses, which plays into the hand and trying to counter-attack. So immediately I'm thinking I want to get them onside on the handicap because I think that I know something that the bookmakers don't. I obviously could they could get smashed 4-0. Like, wouldn't be a surprise because the quality in players and the budgets and everything is just completely one-sided. But understanding the playing styles, I think, could give us a bit of an advantage. So that's one bet that I'm taking for the first round of fixtures is Wydad, the side from the African continent, to play Manchester City fairly close on the handicap. And yeah, I think that there are some teams that are well worth, that are probably too big in the market in the outright, but like you said, they're not realistically going to win it. So the teams I'm looking at are Flamengo, Benfica, and to a certain extent Palmeiras. I like Palmeiras in their group. I think that although Pinnacle don't quite have the markets up just yet, but Porto are the favourites to win the group, and I don't think that's a fair reflection of Palmeiras. Palmeiras are a very, very good team with a good culture of winning under Abel Ferreira, and I think that they could surprise people and finish top of that group. So I'd be looking at backing them in their opening game to beat Porto at plus 176. I think that's a good edge to have. Obviously, you can take them on the handicap as well, but also Flamengo, the other team from Brazil who are quite fairly high-ish in the market. They are the best team in Brazil right now. They're top of the table. Their underlying data is fantastic. They play in an expansive style that's also very high pressing, very organised. The manager is Felipe Luis. People might remember him from his time at Atlético Madrid, long hair, thin headband. He's also at Chelsea. So he's going to put himself right in the shop window for a big move to Europe in a managerial role. And I think that they are definitely worth getting on side. And I think when they play Chelsea, I'll be looking at getting them on the handicap, because I'm feeling Chelsea will probably be like a -1 on the handicap, maybe -1.5, given how the outright prices look, how the future prices look. And then at the same time, I'm looking at fading teams like Botafogo, River Plate, Boca Juniors, Fluminense, because they are they're priced up like they're based on name, rather than actual, based on reputation, rather than what they've shown recently. Because as you'll know, following football in South America, River Plate and Boca are just really, really poor at the moment. Boca in particular, a very, very old team, and I think they could get overrun quite considerably. Their spine of the team is a vintage Manchester United. It's Marcus Rojo, and Herrera, Edinson Cavani.
Brilliant.
Like, what a spine that is 10 years ago. So yeah, I'm looking at fading those teams. Benfica to beat Boca in the opening round, -114 looks a good bet to me. And yeah, Benfica. I think Benfica are one of those teams that if they get into the knockouts, they are such a volatile team, as we've seen in the Champions League. They could score 4 goals in a game, quite easily, and from very few chances, if you like. And if that happens, then they've got a great chance of qualifying. Ultimately, they can't defend, which is why they'll probably not go on and win it. But they could cause an upset if they have a game against, like Chelsea, and it ends up in a bit of a slugfest end to end. Like Benfica would like that kind of tussle, and they both quite fancy the chances. Yeah. So
I'll just mention, just in the goals market, if you haven't been watching, if you're watching from abroad and you're not really sure what Inter Miami and Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba and Luis Suarez are about. It's about all-out attacking football. Both teams to score and over, is regularly cashes, because they simply don't defend in numbers, because they have players that just simply won't defend. But they're still very dangerous in attack. They're used to playing in the heat, and they will be playing in some very warm weather in the U.S. as well. That could play in their favor, but they're a mid-table side. That's all they are, with some superstar talent. So the goals market there as well. Same goes for Monterrey. What's really unfortunate about this tournament, we're missing league winners. We're missing the best of the best. We're Club America just fell short in terms of Liga MX. Liverpool, Napoli. Do we need to go down the list? Barcelona. We know the story of teams that are not in this tournament that are now domestic champions. But the one in Mexico who I think are a decent enough side are Pachuca. They're a little bit stubborn, difficult to play against. They're in a group with Real Madrid and Al Hilal. That's a big game between Pachuca and Al Hilal, because Inzaghi has now gone to Al Hilal. They stumbled over the course of their season, but they have some really intriguing talent and players who've had big moments on big stages, whether it be for club or for country. Bono, the Moroccan, Koulibaly's there, Cancelo, Renan Lodi, Ruben Neves, Milinkovic-Savic, Malcolm, Mitrovic as well. There's players there. I'm going to be watching that matchup between Pachuca and LLL, because that's going to be a big one. And I think both teams will be a little bit of a test for Real Madrid. Obviously, Madrid's talent should take them through, but new manager, some new players, Huijsen coming in at center back, some players still not fully fit, although they have had some good injury news over the last week. But I think that it's a little bit of a tricky group, which may be a good thing on the balance of it from Real Madrid going forward. But those are the two other sides I really want to take a look at. You mentioned like Flamengo, Palmeiras, and then those two sides who happen to be in the same group, Jake.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on there. I mean, people forget that. Well, I'm probably not aware, but Pachuca, they actually beat Botafogo and Al Ahly in the Intercontinental Cup, which is the old format Club World Cup, but just renamed. And then obviously lost to Real Madrid in the final, but they had to go through 2 rounds to get there, and they did very well to do that. So I do think that second place is wide open in that group, and I think that there are. Again, even in Dortmund's group, like Fluminense, I think are a vulnerable second favourite. They only just survived relegation last season on the final day in Serie A, so we nearly had a second division team in the Club World Cup, which would have been quite something. But yeah, you've got Melody Sundowns and Ulsan HD, who are also well within a chance. And I think it's the South African team, the Sundowns, that are undervalued. And I'll be backing them on the handicap against Ulsan. So I think that they're quite a vibrant team. They're very well organised. They play a high press, and Ulsan have really struggled this season to get up to speed in the K-League. They're well off the pace. They usually win that league quite comfortably. So it's a little bit concerning to see that. And the other one is, you mentioned them at the start of the show, Auckland. We have to mention them. They are plus 1 million. No, I'm not read it wrong. Hold on. What? Plus 152,220 to win the whole tournament, which is massive, and they're not going to win it. They are actually an amateur team. They are from Oceania, and they qualify for this because all of the A-League and the best teams in New Zealand play in the A-League. They play in the Asian Conference, so they sneak in the back door as a Oceania representative, and they are all amateurs. So the line for their game against Bayern Munich is set at -4.5. It wouldn't be a surprise if Bayern Munich absolutely slapped them to pieces.
That's why Harry Kane is such a decent bet for tournament's top goal scorer with the Golden Boot. One of the many reasons
100%.
Bayern Munich had the highest expected goals for in 90 minutes in the Champions League this season as well. So Harry Kane seems to be a good play there. Any other long shots you want to mention, or any side that's overvalued or undervalued before we wrap things up?
Not really. No, I think I think we mentioned it. You mentioned Inter Miami. They are definitely in terms of where if you look at the futures and where teams are ranked, they're definitely ranked higher than teams that I were expected to see. I think they're an easy fade, but you've got home advantage kind of factored in as well. Same with LAFC and Seattle Sounders.
None of them are very good. Like these are nowhere near the best sides in Major League Soccer this year. Again, just the unfortunate nature of basing this tournament about things that happened well in the rearview mirror, like not last season. That's the one adjustment they need to make.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I've got a very interesting quiz question for you. So Chelsea qualified for this tournament winning the Champions League in the COVID season. Out of all the staff and players there's only one person that's still part of the team now. That was part
is it a player or a staff member?
It is a player. It's a player.
I don't know.
He currently wears the captain's armband.
I don't know where's the captain's armband. Cole Palmer? Reece James is the captain right now?
James.
I guess he is when he plays. I was like, Cole Palmer. I was thinking Fernandez, Caicedo, Reece James. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's the club captain, Reece James. Yeah, he's just always injured. But yeah, he is the only player that played in the Champions League winning team at Chelsea that is still in the squad. And obviously the managers have changed numerous times since then. So that just shows you what you're saying there is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that happened 4 years ago, it's irrelevant, but also The team's
Red Bull
completely different.
Salzburg's in
So
the
that
tournament,
team
by the
don't
way.
even
They're
get
also
the
in the
rewards
El
of that,
Hilal
so.
Pachuca group with Real Madrid because they're the ninth best European coefficient. How are Red Bulls? I just, some of these things, you scratch your head.
Well, that's because I had to look this up. It's because you're only allowed two teams from the same nation to qualify unless they both win, unless three of them win the Champions League in that period of time. So it would have been Barcelona, it would have been Liverpool, it would have been who else am I missing, like Napoli. Like it would have been any of those, but there's already two of those teams from each. So it was like, okay, we've gone down Portugal, we've gone down. It's Austria.
Nothing in
Salzburg.
Holland,
Well
nothing
done.
in the
In you go.
Netherlands, like one from France.
No, I know because Salzburg did they qualify for the Champions League regularly and obviously and they qualified. They got out of the group maybe once, which is more than Ajax's run this cup was.
We've completely gone off the rails here.
Anyway, like you said, it needs to be tightened up a little bit. Like let's make it a little bit more relevant.
Kind of like this podcast as well. Tighten it up.
Rather than guessing why teams qualified.
More relevant to what's happening. Anyways, the tournament starts this weekend for all the best value on market. Turn to Pinnacle. Bet smart, bet Pinnacle. We'll be back throughout the tournament to bring you the latest odds and markets and leans and plays. He is Jake Osgathorpe. I am Gareth Wheeler. This has been episode 46 and the look at the FIFA Club World Cup right here on Pinnacle.